And now, WJCU University Heights takes a break from Heights programming to bring you
Jewish Community
the
Radio.
weekly half hour every Friday where we bring us happy in the Jewish community, both locally and around the world. And while Elisheva, I always say this, I know, forgive me, but we do have a lot to talk about today. Because why? The big holiday Yom Kippur is coming up. And that's the Jewish Day of Atonement. And before we go into this, I want to say something very important. Somebody this week said Happy Yom Kippur.
It's not happy.
Correct. But it's a still a joyful day in a sense. But the proper greeting. Now, by the way, this is completely unplanned, unscripted. Elisheva, the proper greeting on Yom Kippur is probably have.
A meaningful fast.
Correct. Or
An
may you
easy
have a
fast.
good year.
But I've taught this to people because people, I worked at an old job where the person said, well, I know I can't wish you a happy Yom Kippur because that sounds very awkward. So I said, well, you can wish me to have an easy and meaningful fast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the person who said to me, have a happy Yom Kippur, he didn't know what he didn't know. He meant well, of course. I didn't say one word. I said thank you. But people don't always know. And we know this. We don't berate people because they don't know. Actually, there's a concept in Judaism that if you don't know, it's like a child. You don't know, you can't be held responsible for something you don't know about. You don't
Right.
know. You don't have the knowledge. So yeah, that's how it works. Um, but nonetheless, so we talked about last week how Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year day, we don't celebrate for the day the earth was created. It's the birthday of man. It was Adam's birthday, the sixth day of creation. Adam's birthday. Now Yom Kippur is a culmination of a period where God judges us on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, judges everybody. And on Yom Kippur, where it's written, so to speak, where it's decided what your year is going to be, what's going to happen, that's where it's sealed. So we are engaged in prayers for asking God to be sealed in to the book of life, prosperity, goodness, happiness, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we're also saying a very, very important phrase when we're doing our prayers, which is Salachti Kidvarecha. Forgive us as you said you would on this day. Now, Yom Kippur does not mean it's the only day you can atone. You can atone any day at any time. Yom Kippur is the day God said, hey, this is your last day for the whole year. This is your day for atonement. So it's a
For
special day.
with God.
With God, correct. Now,
Make sure we understand that, because I mean, if I did something to wrong Fred the day after Yom Kippur, I can certainly go talk to Fred
correct. But still, you can still go to God too and say, hey, God, I goofed up. I ate blah, 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 blah. I did this, I did that. And you can
because
atone.
it starts the year fresh. But I mean, if it was something from the previous year, though,
Correct. This is the year marker, and we're starting fresh for the year. Exactly. But we can still go to God and say, God, I goofed up. Now, how do we do this atonement? Number one, you say, okay, you commit to not doing whatever you did wrong, and you commit to doing something better. I was really not great at going to synagogue this past year. I'm going to do better going to synagogue this year. I improved the last couple of years the amount of Torah learning I do, and I'm going to commit myself to doing more of that. So this is how we do our repentance. We say to God, hey, we messed up, and we do better. But on that topic, one of the ways we also, a big way we do our repentance is the charity work. We give charity. Today, for example, I gave, oh, by recording this Thursday evening for replay for Friday 12:30 to 1, of course. So, but right before the show recording, I gave a donation. Somebody, I'm not going to mention the name, a teacher and friend, in honor, in memory of her son. And Patty is probably not listening. So I'm going to say I bought, in memory of her son, a tree planted in Israel. I'm not going to the story. My friends who know what it is, they're gonna smile. That's about it. But Patty, for this lady, respect her greatly. I gave her a tree for honor of his son. She got a certificate in the mail in a couple weeks, and why a tree? This is why I'm bringing it up, because a tree is something that lives for a very long time. It's a symbol of life. The Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. So we give a tree in memory of somebody because it'll be there for a very, very, very long time.
It is actually said. It was Rabbi. I believe it was Harold Kushner.
The famous writer,
Yes, the
philosopher.
one that. Right. It was how bad things good people book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why bad things
Why
happen to
bad
good
things
people?
happen to good people.
Yeah,
Right. So he
great book
actually
by the way.
he wrote in one of his books that that there's three things we should do to extend our progeny, and one is to one is to plant a tree, another one is to write a book, and the third one is to have children.
Yes,
And so the idea behind that is because we are to establish this. And then there was a story of Honi and the carob tree.
oh, okay.
Like, right, like why does it matter that you're planting these so you're not going to ever see its fruit, but my descendants will.
Yeah,
And that's why we plant trees. That's why planting trees is such a big deal to us.
yes. And it'll be a kind of joke to some people, I know, but we don't care. We see that in Israel there is an organization, the Jewish National Fund, the JNF for short, a nonprofit, and they've been actively involved in planting trees in Israel for a very long time. And you think that a country size how small Israel is would be full of trees? Not yet. Plenty of room. It just takes time.
It was
And
desert for a long time too.
yeah, it was. But something interesting on that topic. It is written in the Torah that without the Jews being there, Israel, this land, the land of Israel, will not thrive.
Hmm.
Jews came back. Desert is being turned back rapidly into farmland, into productive area. Without the Jews, Israel is never able to thrive. We've been kicked out, and the land basically just went fallow. Jews came back, the land thrives. It's in the Bible. You can look up for yourself. When I say Bible, I mean the Jewish Bible. But so on that topic, by the way, if I may take a moment,
Hmm.
it says, okay, we talked about, okay, here's something that Christians get wrong. The Passover sacrifice, the lamb, is not about atonement.
Hmm.
The the offering for atonement is Yom Kippur. And this is in Leviticus 16, the scapegoat. The high priest
Oh,
lays his
trust
hands.
me, plenty of people know about the scapegoat.
Well, yeah, but let me tell you let me fill people in who may not know. How's that sound?
Okay.
So,
No, I mean, but they use it against us to say, well, we're just going to blame you for everything that's ever gone wrong.
well, but here's the thing, though, okay, that people don't realize about a scapegoat.
Hmm.
The high priest lays his hands on the goat and symbolically puts the sins on the goat. However, the goat is a female goat, can have zero blemishes whatsoever. Perfect. Cannot have a little bleed or anything. Not a
Hmm.
pimple. Perfect condition. And the goat is not slaughtered. The scapegoat is allowed to escape into the woods. This is the prayer, the offering for sin is not a matter of blood sacrifice. This goat is let go into the woods. Have a nice life.
Hmm.
So, have to give that clarification. I thought it was very, very important to mention that how we handle these things. So, but still moving ahead. Like I said, we give charity beforehand. It's a time of year when we get a. Elisheva, you probably lost count. I, how many letters did you get in the mail in the past week or so asking for donations?
Oh boy. Well,
Exactly.
actually, I'm going to be honest. I stopped giving my residential address to those organizations a long time ago.
Yeah, don't worry, they still have it. Don't worry.
They only well they have well I've also moved.
Oh yeah, yeah. True, 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 true.
So they haven't. They the only things they have is they have an email address I barely ever check, and they have a phone number I barely ever. It's actually attached to. It's like a secondary phone number that's within my phone
Well, in the past,
through my email. So it's. I don't get as many as I used to. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, I still get a whole bunch. But still, the point was that I have this past few weeks, actually
Of
since the last
course,
radio
now that
show.
I've said all this, the federation's probably going to start.
Yeah, they sent me two. Don't worry. So the past week I've given to I mentioned Jewish National Fund, and also it's an interesting organization. Um, that I came across a video on YouTube, and I was really enamored by the story of a gentleman who was in prison, and he became Orthodox Jew after being in prison. He converted
Hmm.
Judaism, and in his honor, I gave a donation to. There's a group that does service for Jews in prison. Yes, Jews end up in prison too. It does happen, um, and it happens. And it's the Aleph Institute. Aleph. I'm looking up here. Look up here. Aleph Institute. Whatever. Aleph Institute, and it's a Jewish group that does help people among prisons, among other things. So I was very impressed. So I gave money there, my donations, and I'm not trying to encourage people to give. I'm just saying what I did. The kind of things that people want to know about me. They want to know where I give to. That's all. So I tend to give to places where that are education based or promote good things in general. So, but either way, Elisheva, do you want to continue on about Yom Kippur, or did I just basically do too much already?
No, I mean, just to keep it really, really simple, to summarize everything that Fred said. So this is, I explained it to my students, is this is a fast day. It's very solemn, it's very reverent. There's no food and there's no drink for about approximately 25 hours.
Correct.
So basically, from somewhere around 6:30 ish on Sunday night until after 7:30 on Monday night, we are not to have food or drink.
It's
Now,
candlelighting, by the way, just for Yom Kippur. I'll say it now, 7:03 p.m. The holiday ends 8 p.m. So from 7:03 to 8 p.m., no food, no
so
water,
I was
nothing.
very close. So it's going to be closer to after 8 o'clock when we can actually eat. So
Yeah,
it's about
but
25 hours ish.
yeah, by the time you go to
Um,
synagogue, if you give it 3 minutes there, figure 7 p.m. Sunday night till 8 p.m. Monday night.
and for those people, and just to make sure you understand.
We lost you. We lost you. There you go. Connecting again. Connecting again. You're back.
The beauty of
Wait,
the
wait, wait,
beauty
wait,
of
wait, wait. We
this.
lost. I lost you for 30 seconds. I kind of go back 30
Oh
seconds.
no, it's okay. Like as soon as I heard you saying we lost you, I stopped talking.
Okay, fine.
But basically, the beauty of it is see, Judaism is not a sadistic religion. If someone has diabetes or they have any kind of health condition that prohibits them from eating, or a woman who's expecting, or
No,
there,
prohibits them from fasting.
right, we don't have to. Right, the point is we're not forcing everyone to starve themselves.
Correct.
So just to make sure people understand, because my students this week had all sorts of questions, and I was telling them why I wasn't going to be at school on Monday. And because my students are so worried when I don't come to school. Like they think something serious is going on. And so I said, no, this is a holy day for me. I can't come to work because I'll be fasting, I'll be praying, I'll be asking God for forgiveness. And they were really, really like awestruck by the no food, no water for 25 hours. And but the point is that if you've done it long enough, you don't really think about it anymore. A lot of us, a tip I like to tell people: make sure you're decreasing on your caffeine, and make sure you're increasing on your water.
Yes. And
Because
kind of
what
go back on salt too, if you can.
right, the caffeine withdrawal usually hits me more than the loss of water and food.
Oh, one more thing, by the way. If you're taking any kind of medication, check with your doctor because you may be required to take that medication and in some cases eat with the medication or just not take certain whatever, depends on what it is, if it's diabetic related. But check with your doctor about any medications before fasting because this is very, very important for your health.
Right. So if you actually have, I just put this out there as a just like just to let you know, if you do actually are required to take pills that require food to be taken in, you absolutely do need to eat something
Correct.
because the interactions are not pretty. I have many people in my life who they have medication that has to be taken with food. So it's because God doesn't want us to suffer. I mean that's really the end of the day. God does not want us to suffer. But it's I end up spending a lot of the time. If I don't make it to the synagogue, I spend a lot of time in reflection. I do pray at home. I do reflect. And this is important to understand. I've already gone to everyone I may have wronged and asked for forgiveness. This is between me and God. That's what I'm doing on Yom Kippur. That's what Fred's doing on Yom Kippur.
We'll go to our friends before Yom Kippur. Now, in general, yeah, we go to all our friends to ask forgiveness for our sins against them. Why? Because before we can ask God for forgiveness from what we did between man and God, between us and God directly, you first got to go to your friends. How can you go to God and say, forgive me for anything I did wrong to everybody when you yourself have not gone to your friends? Granted, we're not going to everybody. It happens. But that also leads us into something which is also important. And I say it's probably every single year before Yom Kippur, but it's important to mention. There's a prayer which is misunderstood, which is when okay, one of the problems mankind has is we tend to make promises that we can't keep. So we have to ask forgiveness for and absolution of promises that we make accidentally. For example, yes, I will be there by noon. Okay, that's a promise to be somewhere by 12 o'clock. You're 12:01, you're late. Those are the kind of things we have to ask forgiveness for in advance to say, no, these are not. When we say this, we don't mean them as, and this gets so technical here, as being, whatever, as being down to that minute or whatever. But still, you make an obligation to friends. You say, hey, I'm sorry. You paid the bill late. You got to be able to pay the bill. Sorry, if I owe Elisheva $10, I got to make sure I got to pay her $10 back. These are the things we ask forgiveness for from our friends.
Right. But I mean back to the Kol Nidre. So because that's what Fred is alluding to. So the Kol Nidre is said before the fast officially starts. There's three people. They're holding
Wait,
Torah
wait,
scrolls.
but we do that after we start our fast, though.
Right. But what's significant is the Kol Nidre starts before sundown.
Correct.
We've convened a Beit Din. We
In
have
court.
three people standing there, holding Torah scrolls, and this is our point to absolve ourselves of these vows we may have made. And but what's interesting is that it did not actually hit the Yom Kippur prayer book until 1565.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, it was not. There was no proof that that was composed in the 8th to 10th century. That's usually when people assume it was done.
Is that why it's mostly Aramaic?
Right. It's in Aramaic because Aramaic is the legal language of the Talmud. It's not done in Hebrew like many of our prayers. It's said in Aramaic because that was the vernacular. And but I mean, a lot of people also have traced it to. There were many Spanish Jews who felt forced to convert to Christianity during the Inquisition, and they might have had to say some vows to, to hold to Christianity. And so the point of the Kol Nidre for Spanish Jews is, okay, I may have sworn that I would be a Christian, but I'm not really. I'm a Jew, and so it's part of that absolution.
Yes. Thank you. Very important.
So it's very very so Kol Nidre is actually very very special to many Spanish the descendants of these Spanish Jews because this was one of the few things that they actually were able to hold on to through the centuries. and without knowing why at this point. Now, I did have a little bit of local news. Of how much time do we have left, Fred?
We got plenty. Go ahead.
Okay, so I had a little bit of local news. I'm gonna take a break from the Yom Kippur, but I was gonna actually before I tell the local news. So we start with a pre-fast meal, just enough food to kind of get us through the fast. A lot of people like to do break fast, and it typically might be bagels or breakfasty type foods. Typically in our family, we like to make pizza.
Okay.
So we're gonna have some pizza on Monday night. That's what we're having.
Cool.
But that's, and again, I will have that prepared Sunday night because it's not fair to make everyone sit around and wait for the pizza to warm up and cook
Yeah.
and everything else. That's really terrible. Because we've been fasting for 25 hours, we're cranky. So I saw this article in the Jewish News this week, and I found it very, very interesting when I saw the headline. Fairmount Temple the Temple, which is Temple Tifereth Israel, are discussing a potential unification.
Whoa.
Not even merger. They're not even using the word merger. But
Wow.
you see, the reason why this headline gave me pause. So just for our listeners who may not know, Fairmount Temple and the Temple Tifereth Israel are the two large Reform congregations in our city. Many people know Tifereth Israel as Silver's Temple,
Yes.
and Fairmount Temple as being the home of Rabbi Brickner and Rabbi Lelyveld, who were great, well-known, well-respected.
Well,
Tifereth
Silver's Temple
Israel,
backtrack. Rabbi Abba Hill Silver, a very famous rabbi who was instrumental in
very
establishment of the
strong
state
in
of Israel.
Zionism.
And his the state of Silver's Temple is now part of the Maltz, whatever building
It's
at.
the building at University Circle is now known as the Maltz Performing Arts Center.
Correct. It's the Gold Dome building. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
These are two very long-term, well-storied, well-recognized Reform congregations here in our city.
Yes.
And typically, since Fred and I, for lack of a better term, identify within the Orthodox community, there might not be a lot of talk about the Reform community or knowledge, but I mean, we do still recognize them as our fellow Jews.
Correct. And still, we are still, Elisheva and I are still different when it comes to Orthodox. Orthodox is widely ranging. There are various degrees, whatever, etc. But in general, Orthodox is a wide encompassing title.
So where this was significant is Fairmount Temple and Tifereth Israel are actually the first two congregations to have ever been in the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
They were, and interestingly enough, why I questioned the headline is to me it would be more of a reunification.
Let me ask a question.
Hmm.
Were these Reform originally, or what were they originally?
Okay, so when Anshe Chesed Fairmount Temple started off, it was the Eagle Street Synagogue in 1846. It was the
Hmm.
first congregation. So Eagle Street, just to let people know, basically it's where Progressive Field is today.
Hmm.
So that was the site of the first Jewish congregation. And Tifereth Israel broke off over wanting to do things more reform. Okay, so both groups broke off over, and then eventually they both became reform. But essentially, when they were both founded in the 1840s, 1850s, both congregations were Orthodox. And the reason why they were Orthodox was frankly until maybe 150, 165 2 years ago here in America, most synagogues were Orthodox. It was just that's what it was. You went to a Jewish service, you walked in, it was an Orthodox service.
Yes.
We weren't discussing what you do in your personal life, but if you walked into a Jewish congregation, men were on one side, women were on the other. The prayers were done in Hebrew. It was Shabbat. You did not have instrumental music going on. It just was. It wasn't really a big deal. When Reform Judaism came around in the 1800s in Germany and eventually came over to America, it became introducing all these innovations. So the innovations were changing more of the prayers into the vernacular, allowing family seating in pews instead of separated by men and women, and these were what were considered innovations. But the thing is that Anshe Chesed and Tifereth Israel originally were one congregation.
Yes.
That's why I consider it to be more of a reunification, not
Yes.
a unification. but I mean, it looks very interesting because both congregations have a lot of families, they have a lot of resources, they have full clergy, they have very large buildings. And so just looking at this from an outsider's point of view, I'm very curious about how they're if they're going to pull this off or how they're going to pull this off. Because usually when mergers are being talked about, it's because it's congregations that are struggling financially and they're just trying to unite their resources.
Correct.
So that was why I wanted to report on this because it just seemed fascinating.
No, I think it's very interesting, and I'm glad you brought it up actually because the one thing that I firmly believe is that we need to be united as one community, and sometimes this is a divide. Yeah, Christianity is a divide too between Protestants and Catholics, whatever. But for the
Oh,
most
and then
part,
Protestants have maybe about like 25 different flavors.
at least, but still, Jews were still sorry, we're still more unified than that. But still, we have to strive for our unity together. We are all Jews, and sometimes when things go bad, the non-Jewish world reminds us of this. Hitler
Hmm.
didn't care if you were Reform, conservative, Orthodox. You're a Jew. We want to kill you.
Hmm.
So it doesn't really matter. And on that topic, there was another case of anti-Semitism at another university where Hillel, I'm not going to every detail, but a Hillel went ahead and had their tables overturned, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it happens so much. I get tired of it. I really do. I just get tired of the whole thing. And we Jews do get tired of it, but we still remain vigilant no matter how tired we get. It's just the way it is. We're used to it, but hopefully soon the true Messiah will arrive and bring peace to the world, which, as is written in the Jewish scriptures, the day the Messiah comes, by Yomahu Yeh Hashem Echad Shmo Echad. On that day, everyone will recognize the Messiah, and there will be peace in the world on that day. The fact that there's no peace in the world is an indication that Messiah has not came yet. Oh, Shelby, we got 2 minutes to go. Give me a story, or give me something.
Um, okay, so the story is that immediately after we end the fast on Yom Kippur, we are already preparing for Sukkot.
Correct, coming up, and we're
This
going to
is
discuss that next week.
right. So just to let you know, you might see a lot of people building these little temporary shelters in their yards. You're going to see stores open very, very late to sell the holiday items, the lulav and the etrog, and we were going to very happily get into that next week.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people by the way started their building of those little huts, the sukkah, already because we want to do as many good deeds as we
Hmm.
can before the holiday of Yom Kippur starts. And it's a solemn day. It's still a Jewish holiday, nonetheless. We try to get as much as we can done. And in fact, I am going to. I'm not going to make a promise, Elisheva, because we don't try and do that. So we try not to make promises. But I'm going to endeavor to get my own love and rogue this year, as I always endeavor to do. Some years, I admit, I don't always accomplish it properly. I am not always my best. I'm not a perfect Jew, but then again, who is? And the fact is that we strive to do our best. We are not perfect. God knows we're not perfect. And when we go to prayer, we go direct to God and say, "Hey God, salachti kidvarecha, forgive us as you said you would." These are part of our prayers every Yom Kippur. You'll hear those words in every synagogue, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, whatever. You'll hear those words every single service because it's very, very
Hmm.
important to us. That said, I already mentioned Yom Kippur times for candlelighting, which is 7:03 p.m. The latest on Sunday night, September 24th, and it ends Monday night, September 25th. But still, coming up even faster, Shabbat candlelighting time for tonight. Friday, September 22nd, is no later than 7:06 p.m., and Shabbat ends no earlier than 8:04 p.m. Yes, because of time changes, Shabbat does end a couple minutes, I should say, before the hour of the start of Shabbat. So Like I said, 7:06 to 8:04 for Shabbat, and of course 7:03 to 8 p.m. for Yom Kippur. And it's the day that everybody is judged, not just the Jews. Elisheva, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach, and
Gamar
a meaningful
Chatima
Gemara
Tova.
Tovah and a meaningful fast.
You too.
Now back to
The Heights.